Hi guys, welcome to Midnight Anime Library. Transmigrated to One Piece with the Ability Stealing System Part 3 Shishishi. Delicious. Luffy, invited over by Usopp, took a huge bite out of a piece of meat and exclaimed happily. Beside him, Rowen was also eating at an incredible speed. Having already equipped superhuman physique, Deep Purple, Rowen's appetite now rivaled Luffy's. Like Luffy, Rowen was thoroughly sick of eating apples. Moreover, the nutrients from all this meat were being rapidly absorbed through his superhuman physique, Deep Purple, strengthening Rowen's body. Pretty good, right? I can't believe you know my old man, Luffy. Usopp grinned happily. Hearing news about his father, Usopp, made him incredibly happy. I met him when I was little. You look exactly like him, so I recognized you right away, Luffy said between mouthfuls of meat. So my old man is on the crew of that great pirate Shanks, huh? Usopp's face filled with admiration. Your dad's marksmanship is incredible. Luffy recalled fondly. I heard so much about you from Usopp, my ears almost fell off. Usopp is an amazing pirate, Luffy added with a smile. Right? I'm incredibly proud of my dad for bravely heading out to sea like that, risking his life. Usopp declared proudly. Check traits. Rowen, having finished all the meat on the table, finally had a moment to check Usopp's traits. If he hadn't eaten quickly, Luffy would have devoured everything. Usopp traits: Slingshot Sniper, Pale Purple, Inventor, Pale Purple, Anthem of Courage, Special. Slingshot Sniper, Pale Purple possesses exceptional sniping talent. When using a slingshot for sniping, can be even more effective than firearms. Inventor, Pale Purple possesses outstanding inventive talent, capable of creating various gadgets and tools. Slingshot Sniper, Pale Purple, being a combat trait like superhuman physique, Deep Purple, currently reflected Usopp's overall combat capability based on his present sniping skill. It didn't indicate his ultimate potential ceiling. In the One Piece world, snipers relying solely on marksmanship rarely achieved high combat power levels. Firearms were largely ineffective against truly strong opponents. Usopp, still untrained at this point, only reached the Pale Purple combat tier by combining his natural talent with the special ammunition created through his Inventor, Pale Purple, trait. Truly exceptional snipers reached their peak combat potential through Haki. Therefore, possessing a Pale Purple sniping trait even before learning Haki already proved Usopp's sniping talent was potentially on par with his father, Usopp's. Of course, this didn't diminish the importance of raw sniping skill. Controlling Haki was difficult enough, imbuing it into projectiles and hitting targets accurately became exponentially harder as Haki's strength increased. Only supreme sniping ability could allow one to accurately strike enemies with projectiles carrying incredibly powerful Haki. The same principle applied later when Usopp used special plants for his attacks. Only supreme sniping skill allowed him to accurately deliver those plants to the optimal locations for maximum effect. This held true even for snipers with observation Haki. While observation Haki could reveal a target's location, seeing didn't guarantee hitting. Accurately hitting the target still relied fundamentally on sniping skill. Inventor, Pale Purple, was a non-combat trait, similar to navigation. Its current tier reflected Usopp's present inventive capabilities. As Usopp grew stronger and more skilled in the future, both these traits would likely upgrade accordingly. Even so, compared to Luffy and Zoro, Usopp's current trait lineup seemed rather unremarkable. But that last special trait, that was something entirely different. Rowen's eyes narrowed slightly. Anthem of Courage, special timidity is natural to living beings, but courage is humanity's anthem. Though naturally timid and weak-willed, at critical moments, can sing forth humanity's anthem of courage. Unleashing power far exceeding their own strength to turn the tide of battle. Reading this description, Rowen felt a genuine sense of admiration. Usopp was naturally cowardly, arguably the most cowardly of the Straw Hats' weakling trio. Even Perona's negative hollows, which could drain anyone's will to live, had no effect on Usopp. That was because Usopp was already at the absolute rock bottom of negativity and cowardice. Even devil fruit powers couldn't make him worse. Compared to Zoro, Luffy, and others, Usopp's character wasn't exactly popular with everyone. But it wasn't Usopp's fault, it was his innate nature, practically coded into his genes, something he couldn't change. What made Usopp admirable was his ability to overcome this inherent flaw, to sing humanity's anthem of courage when it truly mattered. For someone naturally so timid and negative, displaying such bravery was even more commendable than it would be for an ordinary person less prone to fear. His lifelong dream was to become a brave warrior of the sea, and Usopp, through his actions, ultimately proved he possessed the necessary disposition. Rowen respected a man like that. Since you two know each other, that makes things easier. Say, I was wondering if we could find someone in your village who knows how to sail, and maybe get a bigger ship? Nami asked Usopp with a hopeful smile. As you can see, it's just a small village. You'll probably be disappointed, Usopp replied, his eyes darting away nervously. There's a huge mansion up on the hill, Zoro suddenly pointed out. Usopp's expression changed instantly. Nami sharply caught this shift. Eh? Is that a friend of yours, Usopp? Could you maybe ask them to help us out with some money? Nami asked, her eyes curving into smiling crescents. Not there. Definitely not there. Usopp reacted almost instinctively, shouting loudly. Luffy and the others looked. At Usopp he puzzled. I just remembered I have something important to do. I know the owner here really well, so feel free to eat and drink as much as you like. I gotta go. See ya. Usopp blurted out, then bolted away. What's wrong with him? He seemed so panicked, Nami wondered aloud, watching Usopp's retreating figure. Crunch. Luffy continued eating his apple. Well, there's only one way to find out what's going on. Let's go take a look, right, Luffy? Rowen suggested, a slight smile playing on his lips. That mansion belonged to Usopp's friend, Kaya. And hiding within that mansion was another pirate, 100 Plans Kuro, with a bounty of 16 million berry. Given that bounty and his performance in the original story, Kuro should possess a purple-tier combat trait. Perfect material for upgrading. Every little bit helps. They were about to enter the Grand Line soon. Rowen wouldn't pass up any opportunity to become stronger. Right. Shishishi. Luffy grinned. Syrup Village, outside the gates of the most prominent mansion. Rowen and the others had been led here by Usopp's three subordinates, Paimon, Ninjin, and Tamaniji. The kids had found them just as Rowen's group was about to leave the restaurant, initially fearing their captain Usopp had been harmed by these pirates. After learning Luffy knew Usopp's father, the three kids readily brought them here. Rowen was happy to have guides. Whoa, it's huge! Luffy exclaimed, staring up at the mansion before them. It certainly is, Rowen agreed. Building such a large and luxurious mansion in this relatively poor village, no wonder Kuro targeted it. If the captain disappears around this time, he's definitely here, Tamaniji stated confidently. What does he do here? Luffy asked curiously. Tells lies, Ninjin replied bluntly. That's not right, is it? Nami commented, feeling Usopp was setting a bad example for the kids. It's not wrong. It's great. Ninjin retorted defensively. What's this all about? Even Zoro was curious now. Miss Kaya, who lives in this mansion, is very frail. Plus, she's been deeply saddened ever since her parents passed away a year ago. Even with all her money, could anything be sadder than that? So, the captain cheers her up with his amazing tall tales. The three kids explained proudly, glancing at each other. Oh, I see. That guy's pretty great, then, Luffy concluded thoughtfully. So, has Miss Kaya's health improved at all? Nami asked, her impression of Usopp changing significantly for the better. Much better. Tamaniji declared proudly. All right. Then let's go ask if she can give us a ship. Luffy cheered, raising his hand with a grin. Hey! Her getting better is thanks to Usopp, right? Zoro pointed out, arms crossed, looking at Luffy. What does Miss Kaya's improved health have to do with them? How can they just go ask her for a ship? I'll go ask. Shishishi. Luffy immediately grabbed onto the mansion's fence. Gomu Gomu no. Luffy's arms stretched dramatically. Hey! You idiot! Zoro and Nami lunged, grabbing onto Luffy. Rowen grabbed onto Zoro. Coming through. Luffy abruptly let go. The recoiling rubber elasticity flung everyone high into the air. Aya! And that's how we escaped from that giant goldfish. Ha ha ha. Having left Rowen's group earlier, Usopp had come here, standing on a tree branch outside the mansion window, regaling Kaya inside with his fabricated adventures. He had just reached the end of his story. What's that? A young woman with beautiful blonde hair and a delicate face, though clearly looking weak, suddenly pointed towards the sky. This was the mistress of the mansion, Kaya. Usopp followed Kaya's pointing finger and stared, his eyes widening in shock. People? Falling from the sky? Crash! With a tremendous impact, Rowen and the others landed. Smooth landing, Luffy announced, face first in the dirt. Like hell it was. Nami roared, transforming into her sharp-toothed angry state. If Rowen hadn't protected her, she thought she was going to die. Hey! Rowen! You bastard! Zoro groaned from the ground, his eye twitching as he painfully turned his head to glare at Rowen and Nami, who were sitting comfortably on his back. Sorry. Your physique is stronger, Zoro, Rowen apologized without a shred of sincerity. Rowen was sitting on Zoro's back, having used him as a cushion, while Nami was held securely in a princess carry in Rowen's arms. Knowing full well how unreliable Luffy could be, Rowen had grabbed onto Zoro at the first opportunity. Besides, Zoro has demonic physique, deep purple. A little impact like this will just help strengthen his body, right? Rowen! Thanks, Nami muttered after yelling at Luffy, looking up at Rowen holding her, her lips pressed together. It seems like Rowen always protects her. Back in Orange Town, Rowen had said he'd risk his life for her. That memory still sent ripples through Nami's heart. Rowen's promise to risk his life for his comrades. Nami's perspective might have automatically romanticized it a bit. If you two are gonna cuddle, do it somewhere else. I'm still underneath here. Zoro grumbled, still serving as a human cushion. Ah! Nami's face flushed slightly, and she quickly jumped out of Rowen's arms. Zoro, my man, Rowen said, patting Zoro's shoulder. Next time, just you and me, we'll have a little spar, Rowen offered with a wide smile, which paradoxically sent a chill down Zoro's spine, making him shiver. Are you all right? Kaya asked concernedly, looking at the newcomers. Fine. They're all just big fans of mine. New members of the Usopp Pirates. Usopp explained quickly, sweating nervously. These guys are real pirates. Although Usopp knew they were good people, revealing their identities might cause misunderstandings among the villagers. I'm not. I actually came to ask for a favor, Luffy corrected, pushing his straw hat back up as he stood, looking at Kaya. A favor? From me? Kaya looked curious. Yeah. We need a big ship. Luffy stated bluntly. Hey! You lot! Just then, a sharp voice called out. Rowen and the others turned to see a man dressed impeccably as a butler slowly approaching them. Koro? Rowen thought. Check traits. Koro traits: cat claws, pale purple, stealth foot, pale purple, ultimate technique, shikushi, pussyfoot maneuver, deep purple. Cat claws, pale purple, powerful finger strength combined with the 10-blade cat claws weapon yields considerable destructive power. Stealth foot, pale purple, an assassination technique utilizing high-speed movement with cat-like footsteps. Ultimate technique, shikushi, pussyfoot maneuver, deep purple, Koro's strongest ultimate technique. An indiscriminate attack using stealth foot, pale purple. Utilizes extreme high-speed movement and attacks with the cat claws, pale purple, to kill large numbers of enemies. The speed of this technique rivals the shave technique of the 6 powers. Its drawback is that the user loses awareness of who they are attacking while active. An ultimate technique trait? This was the first time Rowen had encountered one. After carefully reviewing the system's explanation, Rowen understood. When a combination of abilities allowed the user's combat power to undergo a qualitative leap, a new ultimate technique trait could manifest. For example, Kuro's stealth foot and cat claws were both pale purple tier. But when he unleashed his ultimate technique, Shikushi, his combat capability reached the deep purple level. As for why Luffy and Zoro's so-called ultimate moves didn't show up as specific traits yet? It was because Luffy hadn't developed Gear 2nd or 3rd, and Zoro hadn't grasped how to cut steel, Kengo, or even truly entered the realm of swordsman, as opposed to just a skilled fighter with swords. At this stage, Luffy and Zoro's ultimate moves were merely them exerting 100% of their current power. They didn't represent a qualitative leap in their combat tier. However, if Rowen were to plunder Kuro's traits, taking the ultimate technique Shikushi, Deep Purple, would automatically render the Stealth Foot, Pale Purple, and Cat Claws, Pale Purple, traits unusable, or perhaps they wouldn't be plundered at all. Because the Deep Purple ultimate technique trait was born from the combination of those two Pale Purple traits. Meaning, from Kuro, Rowen would essentially gain only one Deep Purple combat trait. Still, that was a huge win. A Deep Purple trait was a major tier above Pale Purple. This outcome already exceeded Rowen's expectations. "Who's this guy?" Luffy asked, looking at Kuro, who was pushing up his glasses with his palm in a peculiar manner. "Klahadore, Miss Kaya's butler," Kuro replied calmly, his gaze then sharpening. "Would you mind leaving? Or is there something you wish to say?" Kuro asked, walking towards Rowen and the others. Yeah. We need a ship," Luffy announced cheerfully. "Absolutely not." Kuro suddenly snapped. "Usopp, I often hear about you. You're quite the topic in the village," Kuro said, looking towards the large tree where Usopp had instantly hidden upon Kuro's arrival. "Really? Am I that famous?" Realizing he'd been spotted, Usopp sheepishly climbed out from behind the tree. "I hear you often go on adventures, yes?" "Quite remarkable for someone so young," Kuro commented sarcastically. "You can call me Captain Usopp too, you know," Usopp replied, sticking his nose in the air. "Captain?" Hearing that word, Kuro pushed his glasses up with his palm again. "I've also heard rumors about your father." Kuro's words made Usopp's face darken. "That's enough," Klahadore, Kaya intervened, knowing about Usopp's background and trying to stop Kuro. "You are nothing but the son of a filthy pirate. I wouldn't be surprised by anything you do, but please stay away from my mistress." Kuro ignored Kaya completely, shouting harshly. Luffy's expression started to change. "Why you called him filthy?" Usopp's face turned extremely pale and angry. "Ha ha ha ha." But just as tensions reached a boiling point, a sudden scoffing laugh broke the silence. What are you laughing at?" Kuro's gaze sharpened, fixing on Rowen. Luffy and the others looked at Rowen, surprised by his sudden laughter, but trusting him, they simply watched as Rowen took a step forward. "Aren't you taking your role a bit too seriously? Captain of the Black Cat Pirates, 100 plans Kuro, with a bounty of 16 million berry," Rowen stated mockingly, a smirk playing on his lips. Kuro's expression instantly turned grim. "What? This guy's a pirate? 16 million berry bounty? Higher than Buggy's?" Luffy stared at Kuro in shock. "Kuro? I think I've heard that name. But wasn't he supposed to have been executed by the Marines long ago?" Usopp stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "Even if you're Usopp's friend, that's going too far." Kaya protested loudly, looking upset at Rowen. "Indeed. I have no idea what you're talking about." "That pirate Kuro was executed by the Marines years ago," Kuro stated flatly, pushing up his glasses with his palm. "I'll provide proof," Rowen replied, offering Kaya a gentle smile. He wasn't angered by the young lady's outburst. Having been frail and ill since childhood, Kaya likely often vented her frustration through small fits of temper when feeling particularly unwell due to the pain and helplessness. But Kaya herself was inherently kind. Once her health improved slightly, her gentle and kind nature would return. Kaya had simply been deceived by Koro. Rowen then turned his gaze back to Koro. Are you an idiot? You hide out and only bother changing your name? Not even your appearance? Rowen casually produced Kuro's wanted poster. He had obtained this poster back in Shellstown. Axan Morgan had climbed the ranks to become the captain of the Shellstown branch largely due to the merit of supposedly capturing Koro. In reality, Koro, tired of being pursued by the Marines, had his subordinate Django hypnotize Morgan into thinking he had captured Koro. Then, a decoy was executed by the Marines, allowing the real Koro to hide here as a butler, planning to peacefully inherit Kaya's family fortune. However, the hypnotized Morgan always considered capturing Koro his greatest achievement. Given Morgan's obsession with his own merits, even wanting a statue erected in his honor, finding Kuro's wanted poster in Shellstown had been incredibly easy for Rowen with his system. They really look exactly alike, Nami commented, comparing the poster in Rowen's hand to Koro. Plahador. Kaya murmured, looking at the poster, still finding it hard to believe. People resembling each other aren't uncommon on the seas, Koro maintained, his face impassive. Is that so? I hope you can remain this calm in a moment, Rowen replied, looking at Koro. A domineering curve touched his lips, and the crimson-black light in his eyes flared intensely. Boom! A terrifying wave of pressure erupted from Rowen, sweeping over Koro. NGH? Koro's pupils constricted violently, cold sweat instantly drenching his forehead. The next second, his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed unconscious. Conqueror's Hockey. Even a supposed major pirate with a 16 million berry bounty that was only major by East Blue standards. Before Rowen's Conqueror's Hockey, he was just fodder. Plahador. Kaya cried out in alarm. Don't worry. He's just temporarily unconscious, Rowen stated calmly, then thought inwardly. Plunder. Plunder. Rowen focused his gaze on Koro. VMM. A purple light, visible only to Rowen, flew out from Koro's body and was absorbed by Rowen. Plunder successful. Acquired ultimate technique Shikushi, deep purple, trait. The next moment, gurgle. Gurgle. The muscles of the unconscious Koro began to twist strangely, then seemed to deflate like a punctured balloon, losing all their power. When Rowen plundered a strength type trait, the target lost all associated power completely. What happened to him? That's so weird, Nami commented, feeling a chill run down her spine as she witnessed the scene. Just took something from him, Rowen replied with a faint smile. Wake him up, Usopp, Rowen instructed, looking at Usopp. Okay, Usopp blinked, then ran over to the unconscious Koro. Wake up! Wake up! Don't catch a cold lying on the ground. Usopp said, his words sounding concerned, but his actions, likely shaking or slapping Koro, were anything but gentle. Badmouthing his father was the one thing Usopp couldn't tolerate. Under Usopp's rough handling, Koro slowly regained consciousness. Plahador. Are you okay? Kaya still found it hard to believe that the butler who had cared for her for 3 years was actually a pirate. Are you awake now? Koro? No, even if you admit your 100 plans Koro now, you can't back it up anymore, can you? Rowen looked down at Koro with a cold smile. That, power. NGH? Koro was still reeling from the shock of the Conqueror's hockey blast. He shook his head violently, then his pupils suddenly constricted. And my strength? My. Koro stared at his hands in disbelief. He tried desperately to stand, but his legs buckled, and he collapsed back onto the ground. It's normal to lose control of your weakened body temporarily after losing your power. Relax, Rowen stated, adopting his intimidating villain expression. Why you? What did you do to me? Koro completely lost his composure for the first time, roaring at Rowen. Koro. Bounty, 16 million berry. Your most unique combat style is the so-called stealth foot. An assassination technique using high-speed movement like a cat, Rowen narrated calmly, demonstrating the stealth foot as he spoke. Although he had plundered the combined Shikushi, deep purple, trait, he could naturally still perform the individual stealth foot technique. My stealth foot. Cold sweat drenched Kuro's forehead. My power has been stolen? Suji. That's so fast. Were you always this fast, Rowen? Luffy stared wide-eyed. What did you do? Give me back my power. Kuro screamed, no longer caring about maintaining his disguise. Without his strength, forget about peacefully inheriting the fortune and living quietly. Tomorrow would be his execution day. According to his plan, the Black Cat pirates were scheduled to arrive tomorrow, massacre everyone, force Kaya to ride while leaving him everything, and then kill her too. As the former captain of the Black Cat pirates, Kuro knew the ruthless nature of his former crew all too well. Many of them would resent him, their former captain who had faked his death and disappeared for 3 years. His previous strength was the only thing giving him the confidence to execute this plan. But now, powerless? The Black Cat pirates would probably kill him first. You really are Kuro? Usopp exclaimed nervously, hearing Kuro's desperate admission. How could this be? Kaya covered her mouth, staring at Kuro in disbelief. But the evidence was right before her eyes. Kaya was kind, not stupid. She finally understood. Plahadore truly was the infamous pirate, 100 Plans Kuro. Don't worry, Usopp. I took all his power. Even you could easily finish him off now, Rowen scoffed, looking down at Kuro. To develop a skill comparable to the 6 powers shave on his own in the East Blue. Kuro did possess talent. But getting tired of being chased by marines and bounty hunters, choosing to fake his death and hide. And then infiltrating here as a butler for 3 years, planning to inherit Kaya's fortune through manipulation and murder just to live comfortably. Pathetic. Whoa, Rowen. You can take away other people's powers too? Is that a devil fruit ability? Luffy asked, amazed. No. It's an innate ability I was born with. Nothing to do with devil fruits, Rowen replied, choosing not to hide his power. It wasn't just because hiding it from Luffy and the others, whom he'd be living and traveling with, would be difficult and might cause distrust, potentially slowing down the trade equipping process. More importantly, within the Haki-centric power system, deliberately concealing one's abilities, playing dumb to outsmart others can leave you stuck as the fool. Like Blackbeard hiding on Whitebeard's ship. If Blackbeard hadn't found the dark fruit, his disposition would have continued to shrink due to hiding his true nature, and his thought of maybe just living out my days on Whitebeard's ship isn't so bad might have become reality, turning him into a truly useless freeloader. Besides, sometimes, revealing your strength wasn't a weakness, it was a terrifying deterrent. Only by having your abilities sung across the seas as powerful and fearsome could you earn a greater title, forge a stronger disposition, and cultivate stronger Haki. Backed by Luffy's powerful connections, Rowen didn't need to fear attracting unbeatable enemies prematurely anyway. If he were to excessively conceal his ability to plunder others' powers, how could he claim to possess the disposition to stand above all? Of course, Rowen wouldn't go around advertising his ability to the whole world either. There was a difference between kingly disposition and foolishness. The abilities Rowen chose to display were merely the surface layer of his true power. By the time Rowen decided to reveal more of his combat capabilities strategically, using them as a deterrent to further enhance his reputation, he would already be among the world's peak powerhouses. At that point, the partially revealed information about Rowen's strength would serve as the ultimate deterrent to the world, further forging his own Haki. Just like the current 4 emperors, which truly strong individual on the seas didn't know about their powers? Yet how many dared to challenge them? Instead, their fearsome reputations only made their Haki stronger. In clashes between such peak powerhouses, Haki was ultimately the deciding factor. So what if others knew some information? Haki. That was what transcended everything. Possessing the Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, trait, Rowen had absolute confidence. You're really terrifying, Rowen, Zoro commented. Directly stealing someone's power, such an unbelievable ability genuinely unnerved even him. Good thing Rowen is our comrade. Convert. Rowen issued the command internally at this moment. Having demonstrated the power and confirmed Kuro's identity, this uncontrollable attack style, Shikushi, was useless to Rowen. Better to use it to strengthen his existing traits. Conversion successful. Acquired strength type deep purple upgrade material quantity 1, at. A notification appeared. It's over, Kuro, Rowen stated, looking down at Kuro with his villain expression. Wait. I have something to say. Kuro stammered, utterly terrified as Rowen walked towards him. Right now, Kuro was like a cornered, desperate dog. This man before him had stripped him of everything. Don't kill me. I have information. We can trade. Kuro, his earlier composure completely shattered, pleaded, his face contorted with terror. Only someone who had truly experienced having their power utterly plundered by Rowen could understand that level of despair. Years of effort, years of training and battle forging his strength all stolen in an instant. All that remained was a broken shell, a body now struggling even to stand. And for a pirate, being stripped of power meant being stripped of everything. Monster! Kuro, unable to even stand properly due to the sudden loss of strength, sat paralyzed on the ground, staring up at Rowen in utter horror, not even daring to meet his eyes. He had been a notorious pirate in the East Blue, yet he had never encountered such a monster. Whether it was the moment earlier when the man's mere gaze sent an irresistible force washing over him, knocking him unconscious, or now, having everything stolen by some unknown means. Kuro felt like an ant before this man, someone who could be crushed at any moment. He didn't even have the right to look this man in the eye. Now, completely terrified, Kuro only wanted to survive. Information? Rowen's lips curved slightly. Why yes. I'm the former captain of the Black Cat Pirates. But I can still actually command them. Tomorrow, the Black Cat Pirates are coming to attack this village. Even if you're strong, preventing any damage to the village during that kind of chaos is impossible, right? Spare my life, and I can help you take out all those guys. Hey! Usopp! You're friends with them, right? You don't want the villagers to get hurt, do you? Tell them to let me go. Kuro babbled desperately, then immediately turned his pleading gaze towards Usopp. What? Usopp's face turned pale instantly. Kaya covered her mouth, unable to believe this was the true face of Klahadore, the butler she had trusted for 3 years. So, why did you infiltrate this place as a butler? And why arrange for the Black Cat Pirates to attack? Rowen asked calmly, his expression unchanged. Knowing the plot, Rowen already knew the reasons, but having Kuro confess himself would completely shatter any remaining illusions Kaya might hold. Kuro's throat felt dry. He hesitated, unable to speak for a long moment. Not talking? Then, Rowen stated coldly, his eyes narrowing. I'll talk. I infiltrated here for this family's fortune. I was sick and tired of the Marines chasing me because my bounty kept getting higher. So I faked my death to hide. Then I spent 3 years earning the villagers' trust. Tomorrow, after the Black Cat Pirates kill Miss Kaya and force her to write a will leaving everything to me, I can legally claim the fortune and live peacefully. Terrified beyond reason by Rowen, Kuro spilled everything immediately. As for why he didn't lie? Under such extreme fear, Kuro's mind had already crumbled. Lying was beyond him. Klahadore. Kaya whispered, covering her mouth, staring at Kuro in disbelief. The butler her family had taken in, treated like one of their own, intended to murder them all. Let me go. I'll tell you where those Black Cat bastards are. I won't be a pirate anymore. Just spare my life. Kuro begged, completely disregarding Kaya's feelings, focused solely on survival. Wham! An elongated fist slammed heavily into Kuro's face, the force so great it distorted his features. Trading your crewmates' lives for your own, scum like you don't even deserve to be called pirates. Comrades aren't meant to be used like that. Luffy roared, looking down furiously at the now silent Kuro on the ground. Zoro smirked faintly. Rowen glanced at Nami, who pressed her lips together, understanding his unspoken meaning. Rowan's earlier words about risking his life to help her echoed in her mind, along with the memory of him carrying her. Waves of complex emotion washed over Nami again. "Hey, Luffy! You didn't even ask where those pirates are!" Usopp yelled, clutching his head, then rushed over to Kuro, shaking him desperately, trying to wake him up. "Hey! Wake up, you jerk! Where are those pirates?" Usopp shook Kuro frantically, sweat dripping down his forehead. But Kuro, completely stripped of his power by Rowen, now possessed the constitution of an ordinary villager. After taking a full-force angry punch from Luffy, there was no way he could wake up now. Damn it! Realizing Kuro was truly unresponsive, Usopp slammed his fist onto the ground in frustration. "Just go tell the villagers pirates are coming tomorrow. Have them evacuate," Zoro suggested, arms crossed. "They won't believe me. I've always lied to them about pirates coming." Usopp cried out, anguish etched on his face. "Usopp! I can tell them," Kaya offered weakly, coughing slightly. Her body was already frail, and the shock of Kuro's betrayal had taken a heavy toll, leaving her feeling unwell. "No. Who knows if that Kuro guy hid anything else? Like maybe the pirates won't attack without his signal. If you tell everyone, Kaya, but the pirates don't show up tomorrow, then people won't trust you either. By the time the pirates do attack for real, it'll be too late." Usopp's inherent pessimism and cowardice immediately conjured the worst-case scenario. The reason he constantly lied about pirates coming was rooted in his past. After his father Yasopp left for the sea, Usopp's mother fell gravely ill. Seeing his mother suffering yet still longing for his father, Usopp had a sudden idea. He ran through the village shouting, "Pirates are coming," hoping his mother would hear. Hearing Usopp's cries gave his mother hope for Yasopp's return, and her condition improved slightly. So, Usopp continued shouting, "Pirates are coming," every day. He kept up the habit even after his mother passed away, preserving it to this day. It held his deep longing for his deceased mother. Furthermore, Syrup Village was quite isolated on the sea, the villagers were often bored. After chasing and scolding him each day, Usopp sometimes saw genuine smiles of amusement on some villagers' faces. So, Usopp persisted. But now, years of crying wolf had finally led to bitter consequences. "HM? You're not going to ask us for help?" Rowen asked, looking at Usopp, a slight curve to his lips. "This is my village. It's my responsibility to protect it. Besides, we don't even know if those pirates will actually come tomorrow. What if they don't show up? Are you guys supposed to just wait here forever? You have your own adventures to go on. How could I shamelessly ask you for help?" Usopp turned his head away, shouting loudly despite his obvious fear. "All right. Then Captain Usopp will defend the village outskirts from those pirates myself," Usopp declared, puffing out his chest. "But your legs are shaking," Nami pointed out, looking at Usopp. Damn it! This isn't a joke. These are real pirates. I can't be so cowardly." Usopp looked down at his trembling legs, sweat pouring down his face as he desperately hit them with his fists. "Fine. So what if I'm scared? Go ahead and laugh if you want." Unable to control his shaking legs, Usopp looked up and shouted defiantly. "No one's laughing at you. Who would laugh at a truly brave warrior of the sea?" Rowen stated calmly. "Rowen. Me? A brave warrior of the sea?" Hearing Rowen's words, Usopp felt his nose sting. Becoming a brave warrior of the sea was Usopp's dream. And Usopp had witnessed Rowen's power. To be acknowledged by such a man. Usopp felt his mouth go dry. "Why, you guys aren't just pitying me, are you?" Usopp asked, still plagued by self-doubt. Who would risk their life fighting pirates out of pity? Idiot! Luffy yelled, then grinned at Usopp. Shishishi. Besides, what do you mean our adventure? Aren't you already our comrade? Usopp's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at Luffy, who was grinning and holding out his hand towards him. "Will you join us, Usopp?" Rowen asked, a smile playing on his lips. "Humph," Zoro simply smirked, saying nothing. Zoro could see Usopp's inherent cowardice, but he also saw the courage Usopp mustered to face pirates for the sake of his village. He respected a man like that. Luffy. Rowen. Everyone. Usopp's eyes instantly turned red. He lunged forward, tackling Luffy in a hug. "But I want to be the captain. I'm the captain. Vice captain is okay too. Don't be stupid." Rowen watched Usopp roughhousing with Luffy, a faint smile on his lips. Usopp has joined the Straw Hat Pirates. A keepable trait list updated. Inside Kaya's mansion. To thank Rowen and the others for defeating Kuro and saving everyone, Kaya warmly hosted them. "Aren't you two overdoing it? Didn't you just eat?" Zoro asked, his eye twitching as he watched Luffy and Rowen devouring food ravenously. Possessing only the demonic physique, Deep Purple, Zoro's digestive ability, while strong, couldn't compare to Rowen and Luffy, who both had superhuman physique, Deep Purple. Demonic physique, Deep Purple, leaned more towards training enhancement, while superhuman physique, Deep Purple, focused on digestion and absorption. Rowen already possessed superhuman physique, Deep Purple, and the equipping process for Zoro's demonic physique, Deep Purple, was progressing smoothly, nearing completion. Rowen eagerly anticipated seeing what heights his physique could reach once these two perfectly complementary traits were fully integrated. Zoro managed to eat a decent amount. Nami, however, still full from Usopp's earlier hospitality, only nibbled on some desserts and fruits, resting her chin on her hand as she watched Rowen eat with gusto. Nami didn't even realize that a sweet smile had unconsciously bloomed on her face. "Delicious. Food this good, of course you gotta eat a lot." Luffy mumbled, his mouth completely full. Kaya's family fortune was substantial enough that even Kuro coveted it, willing to infiltrate her household for 3 years to obtain it. The meal provided was far more lavish than anything Rowen and the others had eaten before. "Enhance." Rowen swallowed the food in his mouth, then commanded inwardly. He used the strength-type Deep Purple upgrade material, 1, obtained from Kuro to enhance his superhuman physique, Deep Purple. Rowen now had the Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, trait, allowing his Conqueror's Haki to continuously grow stronger. Using a mere Deep Purple material to upgrade a Gold tier trait would barely make a ripple anyway. With the Grand Line approaching, what Rowen needed most right now was a stronger physique. Enhancement complete. A notification appeared. Instantly, the nutrients from the food Rowen had just eaten were absorbed by his body at an astonishing rate, so fast that it wasn't enough. Feeling his stomach suddenly empty again, Rowen began a new round of eating, much to the astonishment of everyone watching. This was why Rowen had waited until after the large meal to enhance his superhuman physique, Deep Purple. Using converted upgrade materials to directly enhance the trait increased the upper limit of his physique and stamina, but the stamina tank itself still needed to be refilled. Simply put, if his superhuman physique, Deep Purple, was previously at 100 out of 100 capacity, after the upgrade, it became 100 out of 150. He needed more food and nutrients to fill that newly created empty space in his stamina reserves. As for why the superhuman physique, Deep Purple, equipped from Luffy didn't require this refilling process? Because the equipping process also transferred Luffy's own base stamina value, meaning the tank was already full upon completion. This was a situation unique to Rowen with his system. In the wider world, even monsters like Charlotte Linlin strengthened their physique gradually by consuming energy, adhering to the laws of conservation. No one else could instantly upgrade their physical limits using traits like Rowen could. Suji. Rowen. Your appetite is even bigger than mine. Luffy stared, his eyes wide with amazement. He hadn't realized Rowen could eat so much before. There's plenty more, Mr. Rowen, Kaya quickly instructed the cooks to bring more food upon seeing the dwindling supply on the table. Kaya felt immense gratitude towards Rowen. If it weren't for him, she, Mary, and everyone else here would likely have been killed by Kuro. And Kaya looked at Rowen, a subtle shimmer in her eyes. Phew. Having replenished his nutrients, Rowen let out a satisfied sigh. He clenched his fist again, feeling the renewed surge of power in his body, a smile playing on his lips. After this enhancement, Rowen's raw physique was now arguably the strongest among the current Straw Hat crew. Looks like I need about 7 more deep purple tier materials to upgrade to Apex Purple? I see. Rowen checked the latest status of his superhuman physique, deep purple, a look of understanding crossing his face. Even within the same tier, traits could vary significantly in quality. Take Apex Gold combat traits, for example. The minimum threshold was Admiral level strength. This meant both an Admiral level like Zephyr in his prime, and a Peak Emperor like Kaido, would both display Apex Gold traits. But their actual combat power was on completely different levels. If someone like Zephyr represented a 1 within the Apex Gold tier, then Kaido was likely a 7, or perhaps even higher. The Deep Purple trait plundered from Koro was likely just barely at the entry threshold for Deep Purple. However, the superhuman physique, Deep Purple, equipped from Luffy was inherently stronger than the base Deep Purple threshold. Therefore, after the initial enhancement, Rowen now only needed roughly 7 base threshold Deep Purple materials to upgrade it fully to Apex Purple. By the same token, if Rowen plundered a Deep Purple trait that was already significantly stronger than the base threshold, like Luffy's superhuman physique, Deep Purple, then upon conversion, it would automatically break down into multiple base threshold Deep Purple materials. The quantity would depend on the quality of the plundered trait. For example, plundering a Deep Purple trait very close to the Apex Purple level might yield 8 or even 9 base Deep Purple materials upon conversion. This made sense. Otherwise, plundering a near Apex Purple trait versus a barely Deep Purple trait yielding the same single material would be unfair. This aligns with the laws of conservation, too. Rowen smirked slightly. Luffy, how are we supposed to find those pirates? Usopp finally asked, seeing everyone had mostly finished eating. Dunno, Luffy replied bluntly. Usopp stared, flabbergasted. What do you mean you don't know? Are we just supposed to wait here until those pirates show up? Usopp clutched his head in panic. Shishishi. Rowen will figure it out. Right, Rowen? Luffy looked cheerfully at Rowen. In Luffy's mind, thinking stuff through was Rowen's job. Rowen always figured things out anyway. Compared to Luffy, Rowen seems more like the captain, Zoro commented dryly. That's true, Nami added with a chuckle. But Rowen acknowledges me as the captain. Shishishi. Luffy grinned, completely unfazed by his crewmates' teasing. As the captain, you shouldn't rely so much on Rowen, who's a crew member. You need to have some captainly resolve. Nami lectured. Isn't Rowen the vice-captain? Usopp suddenly interjected. Usopp had assumed Rowen was the vice-captain. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case? Vice-captain. Hearing Usopp's words, Nami, Zoro, and Luffy all turned to look at Rowen. Nami felt that Rowen had indeed been acting like the vice-captain all along. Zoro had no objections either. Rowen had shown him the path forward, how to achieve his ambition. Zoro deeply admired Rowen's disposition and judgment. He was perfectly fine with Rowen becoming the vice-captain. However, the final decision rested with Luffy, the captain. Zoro and Nami looked towards Luffy. Luffy blinked thoughtfully. He remembered how Rowen, right after becoming his comrade, had fully endorsed his dream of becoming Pirate King. How Rowen had chosen the epithet Sky Sovereign, deliberately mirroring Dark King Rayleigh, the Pirate King's right hand and vice-captain. And during their journey so far, it was largely thanks to Rowen that he had gained Zoro and Nami as comrades. Rowen himself was incredibly reliable. The position of vice-captain truly suited him. But still, Luffy felt a bit conflicted. It's still too early to talk about a vice-captain, Rowen said, looking at Luffy with a slight smile. Why? Being vice-captain would make it easier to command the other members in battle, right? The crew would accept your command more readily, Nami asked curiously. Although Nami had only joined temporarily, and the official crew currently consisted of only Zoro, Rowen, Usopp, and Captain Luffy himself. Nami couldn't imagine a more perfect candidate for vice captain than Rowen. Even pirate hunter Zoro, famous throughout the East Blue, clearly respected Rowen and followed his lead. Rowen had basically been directing their combat strategy throughout their journey. It's not about becoming vice captain to gain the crew's acknowledgement. It's about gaining the acknowledgement of all comrades first, and then becoming the vice captain, Rowen stated, his lips curving slightly. Oof. A smile touched Zoro's lips. As expected of Rowen. So cool, Rowen. Usopp felt like Rowen was practically glowing at that moment. This is what a real pirate is like. Besides, Luffy hasn't finished gathering all his comrades yet. Before he does, before gaining the acknowledgement of everyone who will join, talking about a vice captain is simply too soon, Rowen added, looking at Luffy with a knowing smile. This was likely why, even in the original story, the Straw Hat Pirates didn't have an official vice captain even after defeating Kaido and Big Mom and becoming an emperor crew. Luffy cherished and respected his comrades immensely, even those who hadn't joined yet. Knowing Luffy's personality, he wouldn't designate a vice captain until the entire crew was assembled. Shishishi. Rowen. I'm so glad you're my nakama. Luffy grinned broadly upon hearing Rowen's words, looking incredibly happy. This was exactly what Luffy had been conflicted about. Establishing a vice captain before gathering all the comrades and getting everyone's approval felt disrespectful to future crewmates. If he appointed a vice captain now, wouldn't future members feel more like subordinates than comrades? On his ship, there were no subordinates, only comrades. Rowen's words, it's not about becoming vice captain to gain the crew's acknowledgement, but gaining the acknowledgement of all comrades first, perfectly mirrored Luffy's own feelings. Once all the comrades were gathered, the one acknowledged by everyone would be the vice captain of his crew. Received strong acknowledgement from Monkey D. Luffy. Bond increased. Trait equipping progress increased. The equipping progress for the Sun God, Apex Gold, trait advanced another step. Rowen smiled slightly. See, Rowen gets it. As the captain, you need to be more reliable too. Nami lectured Luffy, her gaze towards Rowen softening with something new, before turning back to Luffy with exasperation. I am reliable when it counts. Rowen said so. Luffy puffed out his chest proudly. Using Rowen's words to make yourself look good? How is that captain like? Zoro sighed, covering his forehead. Is that how it looks? Luffy's face fell instantly. Alright. Everyone gathered here because they acknowledge you too, Luffy. Rowen chuckled at Luffy's reaction, stepping in to support him. While Luffy might be unreliable most of the time, he was incredibly dependable when it truly mattered. Luffy's charisma was exceptional. Before setting sail, everyone in the future Straw Hat crew had their own dreams. But later, everyone added another dream to their list, making Luffy the king of the pirates. Rowen had joined the Straw Hats not just to equip traits from Luffy and the others, and to safely navigate his own growth period leveraging Luffy's connections. Luffy's character itself was a major reason Rowen genuinely admired him. Rowen. Luffy felt deeply touched. Don't spoil Luffy too much, Rowen, Nami sighed helplessly. So, Rowen, how do we find those pirates? Usopp, concerned for the villagers' safety, looked anxiously at Rowen. The current captain of the Black Cat Pirates is Kuro's former first mate, Hypnotist Django, with a bounty of 9 million berry. If Kuro wants to command the Black Cat Pirates to attack here, he must go through Django. They need to coordinate the exact time for the attack, which means they'll have to meet. And Django, well, he's a rather eccentric individual. He tends to attract attention without even trying. If we head into the village, we should be able to find Django relatively quickly, Rowen explained with a smile. Knowing the plot, Rowen could easily work backward from the known events to devise a simple solution for dealing with the Black Cat Pirates. Suji. As expected of a master strategist. Usopp looked at Rowen with reverence. Just like when they first met, Rowen easily saw through his bluff. Incredibly strong, possessing admirable character and resolve, and brilliant strategically. Rowen truly is a real pirate. Alright. Let's find that guy quickly and beat him up. Luffy declared, rolling up his sleeves, ready to charge out immediately. Do you even know what he looks like? Zoro asked, grabbing the back of Luffy's collar and pulling him back. Oops. Forgot about that. Luffy yelled, clutching his head. I'll handle finding Django. You stay here and talk to Mary about the ship, Rowen said, standing up. Django. 9 million berry bounty, hypnotism powers, maybe he'll yield some useful gains too. Rest assured, Mr. Rowen. I will do my utmost to build you all a fine ship. Mary, who had been standing quietly nearby, declared earnestly. Mary was Kaya's loyal servant, but also acted as a mentor and close friend. He felt immense gratitude towards Rowen and the others for defeating Kuro and saving Miss Kaya's life. He was naturally determined to pour all his effort into building them an excellent pirate ship. Of course, the Going Merry had actually been a project Mary started designing as a child 22 years ago. The ship was mostly complete by now. But some details still needed modification based on Rowen and the crew's specific requirements. I look forward to it, Rowen replied with a smile. Rowen, accompanied by Zoro and Usopp, quickly located the eccentrically behaving Django within Syrup Village. Before Rowen, Django was like a helpless chick, completely unable to resist. Using information obtained from Django, they subsequently located the Black Cat Pirates' hideout and dealt with them all. The rest of the Black Cat Pirates were mere lackeys, some didn't even possess white traits. At most, the Miaoban brothers, Sham and Butchie, possessed blue traits, but these were utterly useless to Rowen. Django, however, did yield a trait of purple tier or higher for Rowen. Hypnotism, pale purple capable of hypnotizing others, stimulating their physical potential for a large increase in strength. Drawback, loss of rational control. After converting this hypnotism trait, Rowen obtained 3 pale purple strength-type upgrade materials. Apparently, abilities that directly boost combat power like this are also classified as strength-type traits. Rowen was reasonably satisfied. Waste not, want not, after all. Rowen immediately used these 3 pale purple strength-type upgrade materials to further enhance his superhuman physique, deep purple. Every little bit helps. Rowen's superhuman physique, deep purple, advanced another step towards the apex purple tier. Using the 3 pale purple materials to enhance his superhuman physique, deep purple, left Rowen feeling somewhat hungry again. However, since it was only an enhancement using pale purple materials, the resulting hunger wasn't overwhelming enough to require immediate eating. Subsequently, Rowen had Zoro and Usopp tie up the defeated pirates and bring them back to Syrup Village, leaving their fate to the villagers. This village wasn't wealthy, and turning these pirates in for bounty money could significantly improve the villagers' quality of life. This was also why Rowen had brought Zoro and Usopp along to deal with the Black Cat Pirates. Grunt work like capturing lackeys was best left to them. And Rowen's motive for doing so? Usopp feels immense gratitude and admiration for your actions. Bond increased. Trait equipping progress increased. Rowen had already begun equipping Usopp's Anthem of Courage special trait. Initially, Rowen had been concerned that equipping this trait might also saddle him with Usopp's cowardice, which would be a terrible trade-off. However, feedback from the system confirmed that Usopp's timid and negative personality was inherent to his nature, and equipping the trait wouldn't transfer those negative side effects. Thus, Rowen proceeded to equip the trait. This Anthem of Courage special trait might prove unexpectedly useful at a critical moment. As for Slingshot Sniper, Pale Purple, and Inventor, Pale Purple, they held no value for Rowen, so he didn't bother equipping them. Having dealt with these miscellaneous tasks, Rowen proceeded to eat another full meal, much to the astonishment of Zoro, the others, and even Luffy, to completely replenish his stamina. Following Kaya's arrangements, Rowen and the others each selected a guest room, deciding to rest at the mansion for the night. The Going Merry still required some final checks and minor adjustments. Meanwhile, Usopp returned home to pack his belongings, preparing to set sail for the sea with Rowen and the crew. Inside Rowen's room. Who? HAAA. After a relaxing hot bath, Rowen leaned back against the headboard of his bed, cracking open the window slightly. He focused, feeling the sea's energy carried on the breeze drifting in from outside, using Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, to continue digesting his accumulated disposition and strengthening his conqueror's haki. While the Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, trade made sailing remarkably comfortable for Rowen, relaxing on a soft bed while feeling the sea breeze was naturally even more enjoyable. Combined with the fact that he was continuously strengthening his conqueror's haki, Rowen couldn't help but smile. Knock knock knock. Just then, a faint knocking sound came from the door. Rowen opened his eyes. Who could be knocking at this time? Though puzzled, Rowen still got up and walked towards the door. Click. Rowen opened the door and was slightly surprised by the person standing outside. Miss Kaya? Rowen looked at Kaya, then noticed the serving cart behind her, and immediately understood. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Mr. Rowen, you can just call me Kaya. Upon seeing Rowen, Kaya blushed slightly and then let out a small cough. Her constitution was very delicate. The sea breeze drifting in from Rowen's slightly open window made her cough involuntarily. Then you can just call me Rowen too, Kaya. Rowen first closed the door slightly, preventing the sea breeze from blowing directly on Kaya, then spoke again. It's quite late, and you're not feeling well. Is there something you needed? Seeing the serving cart behind her, Rowen had already guessed Kaya's intention. I was worried you might still be hungry, Rowen, so... Kaya blushed again, gesturing towards the serving cart beside her. Rowen's appetite had stunned even Luffy. Naturally, Kaya was astonished as well. Crucially, Rowen seemed to eat frequently. Kaya worried he might already be hungry again, so she had prepared some more food. Her constitution being weak, Mary had helped her push the cart over. She then told Mary to rest before knocking on Rowen's door herself. You really shouldn't have gone to the trouble, Kaya. Rowen felt both amused and exasperated. Possessing superhuman physique, Deep Purple, Rowen could actually control his normal food intake. To fuel daily activities, he didn't need to eat excessively. He only needed to consume massive quantities of food when actively using superhuman physique, Deep Purple, to enhance his body, or after intense battles, similar to Luffy's pattern. The reason Rowen had eaten such a terrifying amount earlier today was precisely because he had used the upgrade materials to enhance his superhuman physique, Deep Purple. Do you want to come in and rest a bit? Seeing that Kaya didn't seem ready to leave just yet, Rowen slowly offered. Kaya's constitution was too delicate, just standing outside the door for a short while seemed to visibly weaken her. Rowen subtly glanced down the corridor, noticing a figure lurking faintly in the shadows. It was Mary. Apparently, he was also worried about Kaya coming here alone. And since Kaya hadn't let Mary accompany her, it seemed visiting Rowen was purely Kaya's own decision. Then, excuse me for intruding. Kaya hesitated for a moment, then, blushing slightly and lowering her head, she accepted softly. Although unsure of Kaya's exact reason for visiting, if a young lady like her wasn't afraid, what did he have to fear? Rowen pulled the serving cart into the room, then quickly closed the window he had left open. Once the window was closed, Kaya slowly entered and took a seat on the chair inside the room. After entering Rowen's room, Kaya was visibly nervous and fidgety. Rowen smiled gently at her discomfort and softly pushed the door partially closed, leaving it slightly ajar. This small gesture seemed to help Kaya relax considerably. So, Kaya, was there something you needed? Rowen asked kindly, sitting down opposite her. Rowen, aren't you going to eat? Kaya, though less tense, still used the food as a way to ease her awkwardness. Of course, I'll eat, Rowen replied, feeling both amused and touched. Although Rowen wasn't actually hungry right now, he couldn't disregard Kaya's thoughtful gesture. With his superhuman physique, Deep Purple, eating an extra meal wasn't a problem, it would just take a bit longer to digest. Seeing Rowen begin to eat the food she brought, Kaya's eyes curved into smiling crescents. Thanks for the food, Rowen said, letting out a breath after finishing everything. While his superhuman physique, Deep Purple, had incredible digestive power, digestion still took time. Counting the meal Usopp treated them to earlier, Rowen had eaten 3 large meals today. The last one, in particular, had already provided enough sustenance for his body to absorb overnight. Even Rowen's stomach capacity had its limits. After this late-night snack, he felt quite full. "Rowen, you're leaving tomorrow, aren't you?" Kaya, having composed herself while Rowen ate, asked softly. "Yes. We need to continue on towards the Grand Line," Rowen replied with a smile. "The Grand Line? What's it like there?" Kaya asked, her eyes filled with longing. Frail since childhood, she struggled even with normal walking, let alone venturing out onto the sea. "There? Well, the magnetism, weather patterns, ocean currents, and air currents are all chaotic. It's difficult even to determine your own location. There are islands perpetually covered in ice and snow, others constantly racked by thunderstorms. And high above the clouds, there are even sky islands." Rowen explained gently, seeing the yearning in Kaya's eyes, vividly describing the wonders and perils of the Grand Line. In the East Blue, few knew more about the Grand Line than Rowen, who possessed knowledge of the future plot. Of course, Rowen hadn't personally experienced these things yet, he too eagerly anticipated the upcoming journey. Kaya gasped in amazement from time to time as Rowen painted a picture with his words. Unlike Usopp's obvious tall tales, Kaya instinctively felt that everything Rowen said was true, a girl's intuition. "It's incredible. The sea is truly vast," Kaya murmured, gazing out the window. Though night had fallen, she could faintly see the distant ocean waves shimmering under the moonlight, her face full of longing. "Unfortunately, I can never go out onto the sea," Kaya sighed, her expression filled with regret. Her frailness, combined with the wistful look on her face, made her appear exceptionally delicate and pitiable. "That's not necessarily true," Rowen said softly, looking at Kaya's forlorn expression. "Eh?" Kaya looked up at Rowen, her eyes widening in surprise. "But, forget going out to sea, I have trouble even walking long distances," Kaya murmured, looking down at her own delicate frame, biting her lip. "The sea's secret treasures. Devil fruits. Have you heard of them, Kaya?" Rowen asked gently. "Devil fruits? Aren't those just things from legends?" Kaya blinked curiously. Luffy ate a devil fruit. "If you were to eat a Zoan-type devil fruit, your body could recover its health," Rowen explained with a smile. Kaya's condition stemmed from innate physical weakness, making her prone to illness. This was different from Trafalgar Law's amber lead syndrome, which required the op fruit's specific surgical abilities to cure. A Zoan-type devil fruit, which enhances the user's physical body, would be sufficient to grant Kaya good health. While even Zoan fruits were extremely rare in the East Blue, they were relatively common and less valuable on the Grand Line. And for Rowen, obtaining a Zoan fruit was simple. With the strongest trait system, he could convert devil fruit powers into traits and plunder them. Furthermore, these plundered devil fruit traits could be given to others. Just as Blackbeard could hunt down ability users to form his own army of devil fruit users, Rowen, with his superior system, could naturally do the same. However, since others lacked the trait system, if Rowen gave a plundered devil fruit trait to someone else, they would become a true devil fruit user, gaining the power but also suffering the side effects, like being rejected by the sea and becoming unable to swim. Pros and cons, that was the nature of devil fruits. Unlike Rowen, who could use the powers via his system without any of the drawbacks. Devil fruits, those legendary treasures. "Even if they truly exist, I'd never have the chance to eat one," Kaya murmured, her eyes brightening for a moment before dimming again with disappointment. "When we meet again, how about I give you a devil fruit as a gift?" Rowen offered with a smile. Kaya stared at Rowen, wide-eyed, completely unable to believe what she was hearing as she looked at his gentle smile. "Rowen! How could I accept something so precious?" Kaya stammered, unsure of what to say. "A devil fruit isn't a big deal to me. Besides, haven't you already paid me?" "A young lady's kindness is far more precious to me than any devil fruit," Rowen replied, gesturing towards the now empty serving cart with a smile. Kaya bit her lip, gazing intently at Rowen. Frail since childhood and often confined to her room, Kaya spent many boring days reading books for amusement. As a young woman, she naturally enjoyed reading romance novels, often daydreaming about the love stories within them. She was particularly drawn to tales where the heroine's destined hero descended from heaven to save her. For Kaya, who couldn't even take a leisurely walk outside, such stories held immense appeal. But Kaya knew such things were virtually impossible in reality. Yet, it had happened. Rowen, quite literally, had suddenly fallen from the sky, defeated Kuro, and saved her and everyone else. When they first met, she hadn't believed Rowen's claim that Klahadore was a pirate and had even yelled at him. But Rowen hadn't gotten angry. Instead, he offered her a gentle smile, and then proceeded to save them all. That warm smile. Kaya found herself thinking about Rowen constantly during her rest, his image filling her mind. Having never experienced romance before, Kaya didn't know if this feeling was the love described in her books. But this feeling, it was completely different from how she felt listening to Usopp's tall tales. Usopp, they were good friends. Kaya knew how she felt around friends. But her feelings towards Rowen, despite having only just met him, were entirely different from friendship. Wanting to know everything about Rowen, wanting to talk with him more, wanting to bring him more food when he seemed insatiable at the dinner table. Even just watching Rowen eat made Kaya smile unconsciously. This feeling, it truly resembled the love she had read about. Kaya remembered a line from one of her books: whether two people are destined to be lovers or just friends is often decided the very moment they first meet. This feeling, combined with the knowledge that Rowen was leaving tomorrow, made Kaya desperately want to talk with him more tonight. Added to that was her concern after witnessing Rowen's incredible appetite and frequent eating. She worried he might be hungry again. And so, tonight, she had come. Let's make a promise, Rowen said softly, looking at Kaya and extending his pinky finger with a warm smile. Seeing Rowen's gentle smile, Kaya blushed faintly. She shyly hooked her pinky finger around Rowen's. The strange sensation where their fingers touched sent a flutter through Kaya's heart, making her lower her head shyly. In that moment, Kaya knew for sure. This is love. The next morning, Kaya and Mary led Rowen and the others to the harbor. Everyone, this is your ship. I've named it, the Going Merry. Mary announced, pulling back the large cloth covering the vessel. Rowen looked at the ship, the source of so much heartache for countless One Piece fans back on Earth, and a smile touched his lips. The Going Merry was a caravel, featuring a triangular lateen sail on the mizzenmast and a central rudder at the stern, easily recognizable by its sheep figurehead. She was armed with 4 cannons, one facing forward at the bow, one at the stern, and one on each side. While she couldn't compare to the massive pirate galleons, compared to the tiny, makeshift boats Rowen and the crew had been using, this was, at least, a real pirate ship. Shishishi. What an awesome ship. Luffy's face lit up with pure joy the moment he saw her. This was their crew's first official pirate ship. Finally, a decent ship. With a vessel like this, we should be able to sail the Grand Line, Nami commented happily. As a navigator, a good ship was like gaining wings. Poof. A faint smile touched Zoro's lips as well. Rowen had opened his eyes. Zoro knew his ambition could only be realized on the Grand Line. Rowen, why are you looking at me like that? Nami suddenly noticed Rowen's gaze, blinked, and felt a slight blush creep onto her cheeks. Nothing. Just thinking your smile looks really nice right now. Much happier, Rowen replied with a smile. Before, although Nami would smile, there was always a noticeable undercurrent of worry in her eyes. The burden of concern for her hometown, Kokoyashi village. But now, her smile seemed genuinely lighter, happier. Nami pressed her lips together upon hearing his words. She's happier now? Thinking back, ever since meeting Rowen again, specifically, after the fight with the buggy pirates in Orange Town, she had felt genuinely happy. Especially after Rowen's declaration that she could rely on him, and his consistent actions of protecting her in every situation. Nami felt a long-forgotten sense of security wash over her. Not since Belmir's death, not since she became a pirate-robbing thief and set out to earn that 100 million berry, had she felt this secure. It was as if she had finally found someone to lean on. Seeing this new ship, Nami instinctively started thinking from the perspective of its navigator, seemingly forgetting her earlier insistence on being only a temporary crew member. But, can days like these truly last? The thought made Nami bite her lip. No matter what you're facing, remember what I told you, Nami, Rowen said softly, gently placing his hand on her shoulder, just as he had back in Orange Town. When things get tough, lean on me. Burden me as much as you need to. I'm strong, you know. Rowen looked into Nami's eyes and smiled. No matter how strong Nami acted, she was still just an 18-year-old young woman. Her hometown suffered under Arlong's tyranny. Her adoptive mother, Belmir, was murdered right before her eyes. Afterwards, for the sake of the villagers, she was forced to join the Arlong pirates, drawing sea charts while simultaneously stealing treasure to buy back her village for 100 million berry. She had been living this nightmare since she was only 10 years old. Thinking of this, a flicker of protectiveness softened Rowan's eyes. Nami felt her nose sting. Biting her lip, she gently rested her forehead against Rowan's hand on her shoulder. Just like in Orange Town. Watching this from nearby, Kaya felt a pang of something bittersweet, a mix of envy and something else. But then, Kaya glanced down at her own pinky finger, remembering her promise with Rowen, and smiled again. She had already received so much. She shouldn't be greedy. Let's set sail. Rowen. Nami. What are you two waiting for? Luffy suddenly yelled. Luffy. Watching Nami quickly slip away, Rowen turned towards Luffy with a very pleasant smile. I think it's time I put together a proper training plan for you. As captain, you can't be undisciplined. Rowen's smile was dazzlingly bright. Luffy had no idea what was happening. Rowen had been so lenient with him before. Only Nami, already aboard the Mary, blushed slightly. Kaya. Goodbye. Usopp yelled from the ship. Usopp. Do your best. Fulfill your dream and become a brave warrior of the sea. Kaya called back, smiling brightly and waving cheerfully at Usopp. Oh. Just watch me. Usopp puffed out his chest and yelled back. Take care, Rowen. Turning her gaze to Rowen, Kaya bit her lip, looking at him shyly. Tentative steps, this is love. Yeah. Well then, we're off, Kaya. Rowen turned back, smiled, and waved goodbye to Kaya. Rowen wasn't oblivious, he had sensed Kaya's feelings. But he had no intention of bringing her aboard. Kaya's body was simply too frail to endure the hardships of sea travel. More importantly, Kaya's gentle heart wasn't suited for the Grand Line. Even if Rowen had a devil fruit to restore her health right now, which he didn't, she still wouldn't be suited for the Grand Line. Kaya's personality wasn't built for combat. Exposing her to the Grand Line's cruelty would do her more harm than good. In the One Piece world, physical limitations, even incurable diseases, could often be overcome with devil fruits. But lacking the mindset and disposition of a true warrior, or a powerful, unwavering dream like Nami's, no external means could compensate for that. Not everyone was suited for the Grand Line. Besides, Rowen's current priority was simple: get stronger. That was the foundation upon which everything else rested. Otherwise, everything he held now was merely smoke and mirrors, fleeting illusions. You can't gain anything without sacrificing something. That was a fundamental truth, a resolve and mindset required of any truly strong individual. Besides, this wasn't truly abandonment. Once Rowen stood at the pinnacle of the world, he would naturally return and take Kaya away with him. Aboard the ship, Nami watched Kaya's wistful expression and seemed to understand something. For some reason, she felt a strange pang of jealousy in her own heart. Nami recognized this feeling wasn't normal. She pressed her lips together. She had thought her reliance on Rowen was simply that of comrades leaning on each other, but this sudden feeling told her otherwise. Setting sail. Luffy yelled loudly, perched on his special seat, the sheep figurehead at the bow. Ooh! Rowen and the others raised their right hands in unison, responding with smiles. Under Nami's command, the Going Merry slowly pulled away from the harbor. Rowen looked back at Kaya watching from the shore and smiled, extending his own pinky finger. Seeing this, Kaya pressed her lips together, then slowly raised her own pinky finger. Remembering their promise from the night before in Rowen's room, Kaya smiled sweetly. "I'll wait for you, Rowen." Kaya's eyes shone with unwavering brightness. This was her promise with Rowen. Decided? Paimon, Ninjin, and Tamaniji huddled together. Of course. Let's go. We have to carry on the captain's greatness, Paimon declared seriously. Ninjin looked back towards Syrup Village. Pirates are coming. Tamaniji, Ninjin, and Paimon yelled in unison as they began running through the village streets. In the distance, the Going Merry slowly sailed towards the horizon. Only on the shore, Kaya remained, gazing after the ship, unwilling to leave for a long, long time. East Blue, somewhere on the sea. A pirate ship sailed onward. It was a caravel with a triangular lateen sail on the mizzenmast and a central rudder, easily identifiable by its sheep figurehead. Most conspicuously, the mainsail proudly displayed a Jolly Roger featuring a skull wearing a straw hat. After acquiring an official ship, Usopp, with his artistic talent, had designed the Straw Hat Pirates flag. Seeing their official Jolly Roger, Luffy was overjoyed. Perched on his special seat, the sheep figurehead at the bow, he frequently turned around just to admire their cruise flag. Meanwhile, Rowen, leveraging his now enhanced physique, had put Luffy and Zoro through a grueling training regimen for 2 days. Now, he methodically continued enhancing his conqueror's haki and physique using Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, and superhuman physique, Deep Purple. With a proper ship came proper storage facilities, allowing them to stock meat, unlike their previous voyage sustained solely on apples. Superhuman physique, Deep Purple, could now continuously function, bolstering Rowen's physical development. Who? HAAA. Having just finished swimming, Rowen now reclined on a deck chair inside the second-floor cabin, absorbing the sea's energy from the air. Even inside the cabin while sailing, the ubiquitous energy of the sea could be felt, allowing him to digest the disposition gained via Born of the Sea, Apex Gold, and continuously strengthen his conqueror's haki. His body was also digesting food, fueling his physical enhancement through superhuman physique, Deep Purple. Nearby, Nami sat at a table, drawing charts. She occasionally glanced over at Rowen, smiled faintly, then returned her focus to her work. Rowen, sometimes opening his eyes, would look at Nami, and then at the specially prepared drink she had placed beside him, a slight smile touching his lips. The drink was perfectly refreshing after a swim. A beautiful woman nearby, constantly growing stronger, life couldn't get much better than this. Whoosh! Boom! Suddenly, a loud explosion interrupted the peaceful moment. What are those two idiots up to now? Zoro grumbled, waking up on deck and rubbing his head. These past few days, Zoro's training regimen had been demonic. He already pushed himself hard, but after sparring with Rowen and Luffy a few days prior, Zoro was shocked to discover Rowen's physique was significantly stronger than his own. Consequently, Zoro had intensified his already demanding training schedule even further, sleeping only 3 hours a day and spending nearly every other waking moment training. He had been resting his eyes just now, recovering from the muscle aches and strains of his workout. Shishishi. We were testing the cannon. Usopp's a really good shot. Hit that rock on the first try. From now on, he's our cruise sniper, Luffy announced cheerfully, entering the cabin with Usopp. Oh yeah. We've got a sniper now. But before we enter the Grand Line, there's still one more position we need, right? Luffy added with a grin. True. We do have this nice kitchen now. If you're willing to pay, I could handle it, Nami chimed in, glancing around the galley with a smile. Exactly. That position is absolutely essential. Zoro agreed with a grin. A cook, a vital role on any pirate ship. Nutritious food was paramount during long, arduous sea voyages, and delicious meals could soothe the crew's fatigue. Furthermore, for training purposes, having a cook plan meals could significantly enhance the quality and results of their workouts. See? Everyone agrees this role is needed on every pirate ship, Luffy declared, holding up a finger with a wide grin. A musician, Luffy exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with longing. Are you an idiot? Even Zoro couldn't help but yell this time. What do you think sailing is, you moron? Rowen, say something to this idiot. Nami transformed into her sharp-toothed angry mode. But pirates are supposed to sing, right? Luffy argued stubbornly. A cook and a musician, why not have both? Rowen suggested with a smile, seeing everyone looking at him. After acquiring a ship, what Rowen needed most now was a cook. Only with a cook, especially a skilled one, could he fully utilize the potential of his superhuman physique, deep purple, trait. The One Piece world definitely had concepts like nutritional enhancement through food. The Okama recipes from Kamabaka Kingdom, for instance, were known to greatly benefit physical training and development. Combined with Rowen's superhuman physique, deep purple, the effects would be even greater. However, Rowen had no desire to visit that island to obtain those recipes. Fortunately, there was a perfect candidate elsewhere. Sanji, the brave soul who had the audacity to infiltrate Kamabaka Kingdom in the original story. Most importantly, who didn't love delicious food? Rowen had been curious about Sanji's cooking skills since his time on Earth. Now that he was in this world, he naturally wanted to taste them firsthand. Although Luffy was currently obsessed with finding a musician and hadn't realized the importance of a cook yet, the best thing about being part of the protagonist crew was that often, just when you needed something, like a pillow when sleepy, someone conveniently delivered it. Soon, someone's first-hand experience would vividly demonstrate to Luffy the importance of a cook while sailing. Crucially, along with that lesson would come news of that man, one of the absolute pinnacles of combat strength in the One Piece world. News of the world's greatest swordsman, Dracula Hawkeye's Mihawk. A faint smile played on Rowan's lips. Crash! Get out here, pirates! A loud shout echoed, accompanied by the sound of the ship's water barrel being smashed. Who are you? As captain, Luffy stepped out of the second-floor cabin first. Who cares who I am? You nameless pirates. Trying to take my partner's life, were ya? The newcomer didn't waste time on words, immediately launching an attack at Luffy. Only to be instantly subdued by Luffy's powers and slammed onto the deck. What the heck? Luffy was still completely bewildered by the situation. Hey, aren't you Johnny? Hearing the familiar voice, Zoro emerged from the cabin. He stared wide-eyed upon recognizing the man lying on the deck. Be big bro Zoro? Johnny stared back, equally wide-eyed, then scrambled to his feet. Big bro Zoro. What are you doing on this nameless pirate ship? Johnny exclaimed in utter astonishment. I stopped being a bounty hunter a while ago. This is Johnny, he used to work with me back when I was hunting bounties, Zoro explained. What do you mean, nameless pirate ship? You jerk. Luffy immediately took offense. If Zoro didn't know this guy, Luffy would have definitely given him another beating. Looks like our crew's reputation needs some more work, Rowen commented, stepping out of the cabin and looking at Johnny, a slight smirk on his face. SK Sky Sovereign Rowen? The moment Johnny saw Rowen, he gasped out loud in shock. SK Sky Sovereign Rowen? Johnny stammered, cold sweat beading on his forehead as he stared at Rowen. Unlike Zoro, who set out to become the world's greatest swordsman but temporarily took up bounty hunting due to lack of funds, Johnny and his partner Yasaku were professional bounty hunters. And for bounty hunters, gathering intelligence was paramount. At the very least, they needed to know every pirate's bounty and gather intel on their combat strength to choose targets they could defeat for a good reward. Newspapers of all kinds were a primary source of pirate intelligence for bounty hunters. As the world's largest newspaper, the World Economic News Agency's publication was essential reading. Although most of its reports focused on the Grand Line, with little coverage given to the East Blue, often called the weakest sea reading, it was still valuable for broadening one's knowledge. But recently, the World Economic News Agency had dedicated an entire section to the normally overlooked East Blue. Sky Sovereign Rowen. That was the name of the super rookie featured in that report. The article described him with the incredible phrase, "A new king is about to be born upon the seas." Such an exaggerated assessment naturally left a deep impression on Johnny. Sky Sovereign? Suji. Your title is so awesome, Rowen. Usopp exclaimed, looking at Rowen with admiration. Usopp's father, Yasopp, had left to become a pirate long ago, and his mother had passed away from illness during his childhood, leaving the family with little savings. Plus, Usopp loved inventing things, which required money. The World Economic News Agency newspaper wasn't cheap, so Usopp couldn't afford every issue. He bought one occasionally to broaden his horizons and, admittedly, to gather better material for his tall tales. He happened to miss the issue featuring Rowen. And he's even more famous than Luffy, the captain, Nami added with a smile. For some reason, Nami felt happy hearing about Rowen's fame. After the incident with Kaya, Nami was slowly starting to understand why. She glanced at Rowen, a faint blush coloring her cheeks, her gaze almost tentative. Actually, before entering the Grand Line, Zoro, known as Pirate Hunter, was also much more famous than Luffy. I'll definitely become famous. And get a super high bounty. Luffy declared, fists clenched, full of fighting spirit, not jealous of his comrade in the slightest. Captain? Johnny turned his head, looking blankly at Luffy. What? Don't I look like a captain? Luffy puffed out his chest, hands on his hips. Nami, Zoro, and Usopp collectively shook their heads. An idiot prioritizing a musician over a cook right before entering the Grand Line? How does that resemble a captain at all? Luffy immediately went to sulk in a corner, drawing circles on the deck. Unbelievable. That Sky Sovereign Rowen and Big Bro Zoro actually chose you as their captain, Johnny muttered, his perception of Luffy completely overturned. By the way, where's Yusaku? Why isn't he with you? Zoro asked, looking around, finding it strange. Johnny and Yusaku were partners, always inseparable. Yusaku. He. Johnny's expression instantly turned grief-stricken. What happened? Seeing Zoro's concerned expression, Johnny carefully pulled Yusaku up from the small boat tethered alongside. Yusaku's face was deathly pale, looking like he was on the verge of dying. Yusaku was perfectly fine just a few days ago. Then suddenly he turned pale white and passed out for days. I have no idea why. His teeth are falling out, old wounds are bleeding again. I don't know what to do anymore. Johnny cried, looking at his partner's dire condition. I took him to that nearby rock island to rest, and then a cannonball suddenly shot over from this ship. Johnny started sobbing. Luffy and Usopp's jaws dropped. Oh crap! That was the cannonball they fired. Sorry. Luffy and Usopp immediately bowed deeply at a 90-degree angle. If apologies actually worked, we wouldn't need the Marines. Johnny wailed as Yusaku coughed up more blood. Right, partner? Big Bro Zoro, he's not gonna die, is he? Johnny shook Yusaku frantically. You'll actually kill him if you keep shaking him like that, Rowen and Nami interjected, walking over. Relax. It's just common scurvy. Luffy, I told you when I stocked those apples, didn't I? Sailing on the sea without enough vitamins, well, you wouldn't understand anyway. Basically, if you don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, you get this disease, Rowen explained, looking at Yusaku. Did you say that? Luffy tilted his head, trying to recall, but his mind drew a complete blank. Big Bro Rowen. Since you know what disease this is, you must know how to cure it, right? Johnny immediately looked at Rowen, tears streaming down his face. He just needs some fresh fruit. Luffy, Usopp, go get those oranges, Rowen instructed. Aye. Luffy and Usopp immediately complied, grabbing a pile of oranges and desperately stuffing them into Yusaku's mouth. A short while later, Yusaku miraculously bounced back to his feet, singing and dancing with Johnny again. But their joy was short-lived. Yusaku quickly collapsed again. Although Yusaku, being a native of the One Piece world, had decent recovery abilities, he didn't possess a trait like superhuman physique, Deep Purple. Instant full recovery was impossible, and all that jumping around just aggravated his condition. Fortunately, with a few days of rest, he would make a full recovery. Johnny finally breathed a sigh of relief. Let this be a lesson, Luffy. Never underestimate sailing, Nami said sternly, writing in her logbook while glancing at Luffy. Luffy wanting a musician before a cook was simply idiotic from a practical sailing perspective. I didn't realize there were dangers like this during voyages, Zoro commented thoughtfully. Although Rowen had mentioned the disease when preparing the apples, Zoro hadn't paid much attention at the time. Seeing Yasaka's condition firsthand was a significant lesson. He had assumed just eating enough to feel full was sufficient while sailing. Meaning we have to consider nutritional balance with the limited ingredients on board during long journeys? Usopp mused, understanding dawning. Think about it. Isn't that an essential skill for sailing? Nami pointed out. An essential skill? Luffy, gnawing on a piece of bread, suddenly yelled. All right. Then it has to be a cook. Let's go find a cook. Luffy stood up, looking determinedly at Rowen and the others. That is the most needed role on our ship before we head into the Grand Line, Rowen smiled. No amount of talking beats first-hand experience for Luffy and Zoro. Growth wasn't just about power, mental maturity was also required to become truly strong. Luffy and Zoro, their future strength was crucial for Rowen's plans to plunder high-tier traits and utilize faction fortune, Apex Gold, by taking down iconic pirate faction figures. Especially when eventually challenging the four emperors, their developed combat power would be invaluable to Rowen. An emperor's crew represented a complete force. The more numerous and powerful allies one had, the better. Facing a group assault alone could overwhelm even a peak emperor/admiral level fighter. Kaido's defeat after being worn down by multiple opponents on Onigashima was the perfect cautionary tale. Rowen wouldn't make that mistake. Speaking of cooks, I know just the place. Johnny grinned. All right. That's where we're going. Where is it? Luffy beamed excitedly. It's close to the entrance of the Grand Line. And, there are rumors circulating there about that hawk-eyed man Big Bro Zoro has been looking for, Johnny added. Johnny's words made Zoro's eyes sharpen instantly. And Rowan's lips curved into a knowing smile. Course set. North-northeast. To the Sea Restaurant, Baratai. The Sea Restaurant, Baratai. An ocean-going restaurant located in the Sambas region of the East Blue. Its exterior resembled a giant ship, with fish-shaped figureheads at both ends. Many people journeyed here specifically to savor the delicious cuisine prepared by the owner and head chef, Zeph. Even high-ranking marine officials were known to dine here. After their voyage, this distinctive floating restaurant finally came into view for Rowen and the crew. Suji. What a huge ship! Luffy exclaimed, drooling as he stared at the unique design of the Baratai. Just looking at it whetted his appetite. Beep. Beep. Just as they prepared to approach the Baratai, a horn blared. Marines? A marine warship? A vessel, much larger than the Mary, rapidly closed in on them, the prominent marine insignia clearly visible on its main sail. The moment he saw the warship, Usopp broke out in a cold sweat and cried out in alarm. "TCH, annoying guys showed up," Zoro muttered, sensing trouble. Rowen was observing the approaching warship with interest, then noticed Nami hiding behind him, amused. Force of habit," Nami murmured, realizing Rowen was looking at her. She blinked, her cheeks flushing slightly. Ever since Orange Town, whenever danger arose, Rowen had consistently protected her. Nami had unconsciously grown accustomed to seeking shelter behind him. The moment she saw the marine warship, her instincts kicked in, and she automatically moved behind Rowen. But she had to admit, she felt incredibly safe behind him. Nami watched as Rowen subtly shifted his stance, positioning himself to shield her even better, and pressed her lips together. Safety. For Nami, who had witnessed Belmir's murder firsthand and whose hometown, Kokoyashi village, was still suffering under Arlong's tyranny, that feeling was unbelievably precious. Never seen the Jolly Roger before, a voice called out from the deck of the marine warship. A man wearing a white patterned suit, with pink hair, dark skin, and iron-ringed gauntlets, appeared before Rowen and the crew. He squinted at the Straw Hat Pirate's flag. "I am Marine Lieutenant Double Iron Fist Full Body." "Who's the captain?" "State your name." Full Body demanded, raising his fist. "I'm Luffy." Luffy stepped forward and yelled back. I'm Usopp. Usopp chimed in, joining the commotion. I'm the captain. We just decided on the flag. Luffy glanced at Usopp, then yelled again, asserting his captaincy. I drew the flag. Usopp added proudly. Rowen watched Luffy and Usopp's antics with a strange smile. He wondered if Luffy did it intentionally. When facing obviously weak opponents, Luffy simply introduced himself as Luffy. But against stronger foes, his introduction became, I am Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy? Never heard of you. Just some small-timer, Full Body sneered dismissively. Like Morgan before him, Full Body was a marine who believed titles were everything. A nameless pirate crew. What an eyesore. Maybe I should just sink you. Full Body's gaze swept over the rest of the crew on the Mary. Then, his eyes landed on Rowen, standing not far behind Luffy. Full Body rubbed his eyes, then stared intently at Rowen's face, widening his eyes. Cold sweat began to form on his brow. SK Sky Sovereign Rowen? Full Body gasped, certain his eyes weren't deceiving him. A small fry like you dares call himself Iron Fist? Same title as the Marine hero? Rowen asked, looking at Full Body with amusement. Taking the same epithet as the Marine hero Monkey D. Garp, and parading it around Garp's home sea, the East Blue. This lieutenant certainly has guts. Suji. Your reputation is amazing, Rowen. Even Marines from headquarters know you. Usopp exclaimed, looking at Rowen with reverence. As expected of a real pirate. Hearing Rowen's mockery, Full Body's eye twitched, but he didn't dare retort. He only dared use the Iron Fist title here in the East Blue, the weakest sea, to stroke his own ego. Back at Marine headquarters, he was just an insignificant lieutenant with no title whatsoever. But this man before him, Sky Sovereign Rowen, was entirely different. A user of Conqueror's Haki. A super rookie who had burst onto the scene. Normally, a lieutenant like Full Body wouldn't know much about the power of Conqueror's Haki. After all, since the formation of the three great powers balance between the emperors, marines, and warlords, major clashes between Conqueror's Haki users had become rare. But the World Economic News Agency's report on Sky Sovereign Rowen had caused quite a stir even at Marine HQ. Although Full Body was unimportant at HQ, being stationed there had its advantages: access to far more information than available elsewhere. The disposition of a king. Anyone who awakened it was destined to become a renowned powerhouse on the seas. Rumor had it that even the three esteemed marine admirals didn't possess this power. Rumor also had it that anyone who awakened this power was immediately marked for grooming as a future marine admiral. At worst, they'd become an admiral candidate. Awakening Conqueror's Haki at such a young age. Even though this man arrogantly called himself Sky Sovereign, no one within the Marines who understood the true value of Conqueror's Haki dismissed him as merely overconfident. Arrogance was expected from someone possessing the disposition of a king. Word was, HQ was already discussing what bounty to place on this man's head. Some whispered it would be an unimaginably terrifying number. These rumors filled Full Body with intense envy. If he could awaken Conqueror's Haki, he wouldn't need to borrow the Iron Fist title just to feel important in the weakest sea. A Marine Admiral. Imagine the glory. The power. Why did someone awaken such incredible power, only to become a damn pirate? But, if I could capture this guy, maybe I could skyrocket through the ranks? Full Body sometimes entertained such fantasies. And now, he had actually encountered this super rookie. Looking at Rowen's faintly mocking smile, Full Body felt countless beads of cold sweat form. This man, just standing there, radiated terrifying strength. Now that he was face to face with him, Full Body realized he didn't even have the courage to attack. He remembered now. Damn that World Economic News Agency. In their report, they had only emphasized the surname Monkey and the mysterious initial D for the kid named Luffy, heavily bolding them. Full Body, his attention consumed by the name Sky Sovereign Rowen, had completely forgotten the name Luffy, failing to recognize the kid's identity immediately. What now? Didn't he just say he was going to sink the pirate ship Sky Sovereign Rowen was on? More cold sweat dripped down Foolbody's forehead. Marine hero? Who's that? Luffy suddenly tilted his head, the title sounding vaguely familiar. You don't even know the marine hero? Garp the hero. That's common knowledge across the seas. Nami exclaimed, exasperated with Luffy. At the world government level, the initial D was an absolute taboo. Compounded by the existence of Garp's son, the revolutionary leader Monkey D. Dragon. Official propaganda handled Garp similarly to how Gold Roger was changed to Gold Roger. Garp was publicly known only as Garp the Hero or Garp the Fist. The full name Monkey D. Garp was known only to a select few across the seas. Oh. You mean Gramps? Hearing the name, Luffy shivered, unpleasant memories flooding back. Gramps? Nami, Usopp, and even Zoro stared at Luffy with expressions of utter disbelief. Johnny and Yasaku hugged each other tightly, gaping at Luffy in shock. Wait. My brain feels scrambled. Nami clutched her head, shaking it slightly. Garp the hero is your grandfather? Your actual grandfather? Nami asked Luffy incredulously. Yeah. Gramps is super scary. Luffy recalled Garp's training methods, a flicker of genuine fear crossing even his normally carefree eyes. Rowen watched Luffy, amused. This family, truly is full of extraordinary individuals. Garp's son, Monkey D. Dragon, became the leader of the Revolutionary Army. And Luffy. Garp, wanting him to become a Marine, subjected him to ridiculously harsh training. Throwing him into bottomless ravines, abandoning him in jungles teeming with ferocious beasts at night, tying him to balloons and letting him float away. All while yelling at Luffy to become a strong Marine. It was no wonder young Luffy developed such a deep-seated psychological aversion to the idea. Even if Luffy hadn't met Shanks, becoming a Marine under those circumstances would have been impossible. Regardless of who Luffy's grandfather is, he's a pirate now. The man who will become king of the pirates, Rowen interjected, summarizing the situation for the still-stunned crew. That's right. Shishishi. Luffy instantly snapped out of his Garp-induced funk, grinning broadly and yelling. Bond increased. Trait equipping progress increased. Handling Luffy, easy peasy. Rowen smirked, then turned his attention back to the now slack-jawed full-body on the warship opposite them. I hear, you were planning to sink our pirate ship? Rowen asked, smiling faintly at Fullbody's stunned expression. Fullbody was now completely frozen, utterly dumbfounded. Fullbody's expression was a spectacular mess of emotions as he stared dumbfounded at the ship opposite him. Did his ears deceive him? That brat named Luffy, was Vice Admiral Garp's grandson? But then, meeting Rowen's steady gaze snapped him back to reality. Cold sweat beaded densely on his forehead. Fullbody knew with certainty he hadn't misheard. What in the unholy hell? He had planned to bring the woman accompanying him to the famous sea restaurant Baratai, impress her with his wealth and charm. Encountering a pirate crew, Fullbody had intended to show off his strength too. But the pirate crew he encountered turned out to be the very one harboring Sky Sovereign Rowen. And their unremarkable captain was Vice Admiral Garp's grandson? Was this really the East Blue, the weakest sea? What kind of cruel cosmic joke was this? Why are you sweating so much? Are you afraid of a bunch of pirates? Unfortunately, the clueless woman beside him chose that moment to speak up. Fullbody glanced at Rowen's teasing expression on the opposite ship and grit his teeth. Oh, of course I'm not scared. It's just, before such a fine dinner, getting things too bloody would ruin the appetite, wouldn't it? Fullbody forced himself to say, trying to save face. He had his pride, after all. No matter what, he was still a Marine headquarters lieutenant. As long as he didn't provoke them further, Rowen probably wouldn't make things too difficult for him, right? Probably. Oh? Bloody? Planning to use your iron fist? Rowen asked, smiling as he glanced at the iron-ringed gauntlets on Fullbody's fists. Seeing those things reminded Rowen of the knuckle dusters some teenagers liked to play with back on Earth. Using something like that as a weapon in the One Piece world and calling yourself Iron Fist, it was utterly comical. Seeing Rowen looking like he might actually make a move, full-body sweat started pouring down like a waterfall, completely unstoppable. This guy wasn't giving him any face at all. But there was nothing he could do. Fight a monster rumored at HQ to be future admiral material if he were a Marine? He wouldn't even know how he died. Besides, he had felt the man's terrifying presence firsthand. Just standing there, full-body lacked the courage even to throw a punch. If he got killed here, it would be for nothing. And that damn brat Luffy was Vice Admiral Garp's grandson. Full-body's forehead was drenched in cold sweat. Wait. Hold on. Today's meal is all on me. Full-body threw up his hands, blurting out in panic. Face? Who cares about face when your life is on the line? Free meal? Hearing this, Nami, still hiding slightly behind Rowen, instantly brightened. Really? Wow, you're actually a good guy. Luffy beamed, completely won over. Hey! In the eyes of normal people, we're the bad guys, and the Marines are the good guys, Usopp couldn't help but point out. Oh yeah. That's right. Luffy yelled, clutching his head. Well then, we won't hold back, Rowen chuckled, looking at Nami's sparkling eyes. Whenever something was free, Nami's enthusiasm skyrocketed. But Rowen didn't blame her. Since she was 10, she had carried the heavy burden of earning 100 million berry to buy back her hometown. To Nami, money represented hope for her village. Years of this struggle had ingrained the habit deeply. Compared to Nami's excitement, dealing with a small fry like Full Body wasn't even worth unleashing Conqueror's haki for Rowen. Rowen had already checked Full Body's traits earlier, not a single one above purple tier. Completely worthless to him. Hee, Nami stuck out her tongue playfully at Rowen, looking utterly adorable. Rowen prioritizing her mood like this warmed Nami's heart. Oh, of course. My treat. Full Body stammered, then quickly grabbed his companion and scrambled onto a small boat, rowing hastily towards the Baratai. Consider it the cost of escaping disaster. Luckily, their crew isn't that big, it shouldn't cost too much. Full Body thought desperately. Let's head over to free food. Free food. Nami cheered cutely, pumping her fist. Shishishi. Someone's treating. Let's hurry up and eat. Luffy grinned, already drooling. Gomu Gomu no. Just as Nami was about to instruct Zoro and the others to dock the ship, the impatient Luffy grabbed onto the going merry sheep figurehead, stretching his arms back dramatically. Rocket! Luffy launched himself directly towards the Baratai. Boom! With a tremendous crash, Luffy blasted a large hole straight through the side of the Baratai. That idiot, Zoro sighed, covering his face. Forget Luffy, he'll figure things out himself. Let's go, order Rowen, already accustomed to Luffy's antics, even without the excuse of dodging cannon fire this time. Luffy's impatience for food still led to property damage, chuckled and turned to Nami. May I have the pleasure of dining with you, my beautiful lady? Rowen extended his right hand gracefully. Nami felt a momentary sense of déjà vu, time seeming to rewind to her first encounter with Rowen. On the luxury liner that day, Rowen had extended his hand just like this, elegantly, inviting her to dance. Of course, Nami replied, smiling sweetly as she placed her slender hand in Rowen's right hand. But the feeling is completely different now. Feeling the warmth of Rowen's palm against hers, Nami pressed her lips together thoughtfully. Welcome, esteemed guests. Do you have a reservation? As they entered the restaurant, a chef wearing a black uniform with a pink scarf around his neck approached them, a wide, exaggerated smile plastered on his face. Our meal, the gentleman is paying, Rowen gestured towards the already seated Full Body. Honored guests. Right this way. Seeing the Marine lieutenant didn't deny it, and even seemed somewhat afraid of this group, Patty the chef instantly smelled a big spender. His smile widened until his face nearly cramped. The menu, Rowen said, taking a seat and glancing at the menu presented. Yes. What would you like to order? Everything here is guaranteed delicious. Patty beamed. We'll start with 5 full menu, Rowen stated calmly. Put. Full body, who had just taken a sip of water, sprayed it everywhere upon hearing Rowen. F5 full menu? Patty blinked, momentarily stunned. Ordering the whole menu? He'd never encountered that before. And the prices here were quite steep. What are you waiting for? Go get the food. Do you think a Marine Headquarters Lieutenant, Iron Fist Full Body, would shortchange you? Rowen directed his gaze pointedly at Full Body. Full Body felt like his heart was bleeding money, but he didn't dare utter a word of protest. He could feel a terrifying pressure locking onto him. Escape was impossible. Is this the power of Sky Sovereign Rowen? So terrifying. How could such a monster appear in the East Blue? And why did he have the misfortune of running into him? While his heart bled, Full Body resigned himself to his fate. A massive bill was inevitable. At the very least, he had to successfully impress the woman he brought here to make it somewhat worthwhile. Full Body forced a smile. Just then, a man with blonde hair, wearing a black suit, and most distinctively, sporting curly eyebrows, approached Full Body's table carrying a bottle of red wine. It was, unmistakably, Sanji, the future cook of the Straw Hat Pirates from the original story. Check traits. Seeing Sanji, Rowen prompted inwardly. Sanji traits: black leg style, deep purple, modified exoskeleton, adaptive, unawakened. Black leg style, deep purple. As a chef, hands are considered sacred tools, so combat relies primarily on powerful kicking techniques developed through rigorous training. Modified exoskeleton, adaptive, unawakened, a result of the Vinsmoke family's lineage factor modifications. Upon awakening the exoskeleton, the body becomes incredibly durable, possessing superhuman resilience, allowing even broken bones to heal rapidly. Physical hardness becomes astonishing, rendering the body impervious to blades and bullets. Simultaneously gains modified strength, significantly boosting overall power. Sanji, despite being one of the Straw Hat Crew's main 3 combatants in the original story, wasn't strictly a fighter by trade. His primary role was chef. Zoro, in contrast, was purely a combatant. And truthfully, before awakening his exoskeleton, Sanji's combat strength had fallen slightly behind Zoro's. However, after awakening the exoskeleton, Sanji's power received a massive boost. The exoskeleton could even withstand a direct sword strike from Queen the Plague, one of the beast's pirates' all-stars, causing Queen's blade to shatter. Its defensive and offensive capabilities surpassed even Sanji's own armament haki. Even if his bones were broken, he could instantly reset them just by striking his own body. After awakening his exoskeleton, Sanji defeated Queen the Plague, reaching the level of a Yonko commander. The strength of the awakened exoskeleton depended on Sanji's own power at the time of awakening, hence its adaptive status while unawakened. When Sanji eventually awakens it, the trait tier displayed will reflect his strength at that moment. Furthermore, this modified exoskeleton trait encompassed all the Vinsmoke lineage factor modifications. Vinsmoke Judge subjected his children to 4 main modifications: strength, resilience, exoskeleton, and cold heart. Sanji's modifications, however, only retained the first 3. He didn't lose his emotions. Strength included comprehensive enhancements to both power and speed. Once this modified exoskeleton trait awakened, Sanji would gain not only the exoskeleton but also massive boosts to his strength, speed, and resilience. Crucially, even the unawakened modified exoskeleton trait could be equipped by Rowen. And the system could potentially force its awakening, similar to how Rowen's own Conqueror's haki was awakened. Rowen's eyes lit up. The power displayed by the awakened exoskeleton surpassed even Sanji's own armament haki. Combined with my future physical potential ceiling, this exoskeleton, my future physique, might rival Big Mom's iron balloon body, maybe even surpass it. And by awakening the modified exoskeleton trait, Rowen could also gain the embedded strength and resilience modifications from Vinsmoke Judge's experiments. Based on its performance in the original story, this trait was definitely gold tier. Its exact sublevel, he'd find out once Sanji joined the crew and the equipping process completed. Sanji hadn't yet learned nutritional enhancement cooking techniques, so his culinary skills, being purely a life skill at this point, didn't manifest as a trait. Not that Rowen planned to become a chef anyway, he had no intention of equipping Sanji's cooking skills. He just wanted to taste Sanji's cooking. Meanwhile, Full Body, trying to show off in front of his female companion by picking on Sanji, had started a conflict. After smashing the dishes on the table and arrogantly declaring he'd pay for everything, Full Body had crossed Sanji's line. On the sea, can money fill your stomach? Sanji snarled, his face contorted with fury. He grabbed Full Body's face and lifted him bodily off the ground. Having experienced starvation firsthand, Sanji knew its desperation all too well. Crash! Just then, the restaurant's ceiling suddenly fractured. An older man with a peg leg and a tall chef's hat fell through, along with Luffy. My ceiling! It's all your fault, brat! Zeph, the owner of the Baratai, glared furiously at Luffy. This damn kid had not only smashed a hole in his kitchen and nearly crushed him, but now he'd destroyed the dining room ceiling too. It was you who broke it, old man. Luffy yelled back indignantly. Treating customers like this? I'll contact the government. I'll have this place shut down. Full Body shrieked, his face twisted with rage. Then I'll just deal with you right here. Sanji's expression turned dark as he advanced towards Full Body. Boss! Stop Sanji before he causes more trouble. The other chefs rushed forward, trying to restrain Sanji while yelling at Zeph. Hey! Sanji! Causing trouble again? Zeph turned, glaring at Sanji. Shut up, old geezer, Sanji retorted, calming down slightly upon seeing Zeph, though his words remained disrespectful. Who are you talking to? Trying to destroy my restaurant? Zeph roared, striking Sanji hard across the face with his peg leg. Poof! Full Body smirked, feeling vindicated. But then wham! And you! Get the hell out of here! Zeph's peg leg struck again, knocking Full Body to the ground. What the? Even the owners like this? Are these guys really chefs? They act more like pirates. Full Body stammered from the floor, cold sweat dripping down his face. Hey! Before you leave, remember to settle your bill, a calm voice added, making Full Body break out in even more cold sweat. What kind of rotten luck did I have today? Rowen? You guys are here? Luffy looked over at Rowen and the others, overjoyed. Pay my bill too, okay? I smashed up the kitchen and hit the old man. He says I have to work here for a year to pay it off. Luffy ran over to Rowen, pleading with clasped hands. Wasn't that entirely your own fault, you idiot? Nami snapped, instantly defensive when money was involved. The commotion attracted Sanji's attention. The moment he saw Nami, he instantly dashed over. Ah! Fate must have brought us together, my beautiful mademoiselle. Sanji produced a rose seemingly from nowhere, but then froze. The beautiful lady before him had linked her arm with the handsome man standing beside her, smiling sweetly up at him. Crack! Sanji felt his heart shatter. He was heartbroken. Again. Hey, you okay? Usopp asked, seeing Sanji's utterly devastated expression. I'm fine. I just regret not meeting this lady sooner. You better treat this beautiful lady right. Sanji declared, tears streaming down his face as he looked earnestly at Rowen. He might be a flirt, but under Zeph's tutelage, Sanji held absolute respect for women. Since this beautiful lady had clearly chosen this man, all he could do was offer his blessing. Causing a scene wouldn't be manly. Of course, I'll treat her well. Right, Nami? Rowen smiled, looking down at Nami who was clinging to his arm. Rowen could sense Nami's feelings. The moment Sanji produced the rose, Nami had instinctively reacted. Now, her face flushed slightly, she didn't let go of Rowen's arm, instead, she subconsciously held on even tighter. Bang! Just as the restaurant descended into chaos, a marine soldier burst through the doors. Lieutenant Full Body. Sir! It's terrible. We let one of Don Krieg's men escape, the soldier reported frantically, drenched in cold sweat. What did you say? Impossible. When we captured him 3 days ago, he was starving to death. We haven't given him any food since. Full body stared in disbelief. Krieg's crew? The strongest pirate fleet in the East Blue. Hearing the name, the other restaurant patrons instantly erupted in panicked murmurs. Strongest pirate fleet in the East Blue? Luffy looked intrigued. We are terribly sorry, sir. Bang! A gunshot rang out, silencing the marine soldier, who collapsed to the floor. Behind him, a figure holding a pistol slowly entered the restaurant. That's it for today. Meet you in next part.